the first thing that I do when I tune my drones is I don't throw the chanter in right away. I will put a cork into the bagpipe, which I'll do right now, and then I will inflate the bag. I'll get the drones going. I have synthetic reeds in here. And what I'll do for the next 2 to 3 minutes is I will warm the drones up with keeping the bag inflated. And what that's going to do is it's going to get the tongues on the reeds to vibrate easier. It's going to make them more pliable, I think is the word. And it's also going to get some warm, moist air going through the bag. And if you have a bag that requires seasoning, that will also get the air tightness in the bag to start to activate if it hasn't been played for a little bit, maybe like a day or two. So you're getting 2 benefits out of this process. And then after that, I'll put the chanter in. And don't worry about tuning the drones. You're going to have to do that with the pipe chanter in there as well. So let's fire these puppies up. So we've warmed up the pipes for a couple of 2-3 minutes. What we're going to do now is I've put the pipe chanter in the stock, and we're going to inflate the bag. We're going to strike it up, and we're going to cork the bass and the middle tenor, and we're going to focus on just tuning the outside tenor. Because with the outside tenor, you want the outside tenor and the low A to be in tune. So you may be asking, does the low A have to be in tune before I even get to this? Yes, it technically should be. However, everybody's pitch varies slightly from a variety of different pitch levels. But you want to get it as close as you can. And even if this is, say, 475 or lower, or at 480, whatever your pitch is at, you want the low A to be in tune with the drones. So let's strike up. We'll close off the bass and the middle tenor, and we'll start to tune the outside tenor, and we'll go over tips and tricks as we go. So you can already hear that the low A and the outside tenor are not in tune. So let's start to tune them up. What playing D for as a note will do is it'll keep the air pressure on the reed consistent, so that when you're instead of just having your chanter not sounding when you're tuning your drones, the air pressure is going to change, and then your tuning is going to be slightly off. So that's why you want to play a note, low A, high A, or D, depending on if you have both hands on the chanter. Not quite there, a little bit more. So that is pretty darn close. The drone's a little bit higher than I prefer it, but I know that these drones are still warming up in a way, and the chanter is cold. So as they both warm up, they're going to start to change pitch a little bit, which is expected. That's natural. We'll strike these up again, and we'll start to tune the bass. I don't typically tune this unless I'm really in a hurry, and I can tune these all at once, but it takes a little bit more time. I just find it's easier to cap this off, close it off, and then tune the bass after tuning the outside tenor. So bass next. took me a little bit of time to get the bass in tune. I find the bass is just a teeny bit more difficult than the outside tenor is, but that's my personal opinion. The reason why I think that the bass is a little bit harder to tell is because it's a deeper tone. It's one octave below the tenors and the chanter. So if you tune at 480, then your bass should typically be tuned at 479, just one octave below. And that makes it a little bit more challenging for people who are just in the process of training their ears to know what their bagpipe should sound like without the aid of a tuner. One of the biggest hurdles for students over the years that I've discovered is that tuning, along with everything else, can be burdensome. It can be a pain in the butt. Very fair. I absolutely understand and I agree with you if you think it's hard. It is not easy. Even today, I'm a professional player and I still struggle to tune these on some days depending on a variety of factors, which we won't get into right now. If you'd like to hear more about my discussion about environmental factors and stuff, I'll put a link in the description below to that video. So now that the bass is more in tune and probably will have gone out of tune a little bit, now we'll focus on the tenor. Now, I find the tenor is actually the easiest one to tune because when this is going and these two are tuned, you can hear this one way easier because this one tends to produce sound waves more if it's out of tune. If it's not producing waves, then it depends on how big the waves are. If they're really, really big like this and really frequent, it's really out of tune. If the waves are like this, it's not far out of tune, but you need to get it into that ballpark range of being in that sweet spot. So that's what higher level players and open players do, is they try to get these things with no waves whatsoever and in tune with the chanter, which we'll do a little bit more of a discussion of that later on. If you have any questions about what we're discussing so far and what we'll be having to discuss in the next part of this video, then please leave them down below and I will be happy to see some very thought-provoking comments and questions about how to tune these potentially easier and what methods other people tend to use, and we'll get a discussion going. I'd be very interested to see what the answers are. So without further ado, let's finish off with the middle tenor. The pipes had a little bit of time, as little as 30 seconds actually, to cool down and go out of tune. Big pipes tend to do that. If that happens and you have a bit of time, just play them for another minute or so. Usually after about that amount of time, the pipes will come back into tune. So let's see if we can get these a little bit more in tune. I'll play a few notes. And again, I'll plug the inside tenor and the bass, and we'll see if any of these need a little bit of tweaking so you can see how this works. Bass next. Now, it might sound like the bass is relatively in tune, and honestly, factually it is. It may be the tiniest little bit, not quite in tune. I might have actually gone a little bit too far with it, so let's explore why I think that is. I'll give it a little bit of turn upwards to flatten it off and see if it starts to go out of tune, because if it does that, you know that you need to sharpen it down a little bit, if that's the case, and bring it down just a little bit if it starts to go out of tune, if you flatten it. So when I put it up a little bit, it didn't sound quite right to me. It sounded like it was starting to wave a little bit more. When I brought it back down, it started to go out of tune with, it started to vibrate more in unison with the outside tenor. So I decided that it would be better to bring it up just a wee bit, and I mean like maybe half of what I brought it down the previous step. So I brought it back up, I flattened it, and that got it into the spot where it was actually quite nice and sweet. So let's do the same with the inside tenor. That's actually not too bad at all. When I get into that area where I think that the drones are just barely out of tune, I don't like stopping there because I know I can get them better. If you are still in the process of learning how to do this, is why we're discussing this. So when you don't hear any more of those waves, then stop for a second. Play a few notes, see if the tuning changes as you play some notes or a tune or whatever, and see how far out they go. If they go out at all, they may not go out of tune at all. If the waving kind of comes back and forth, see if it needs to be flattened or sharpened just a hair. You might be just outside of that sweet spot area that will keep the drones from going out of tune at all. If they go out of tune off and on a little bit, it may be because your blowing pressure needs to be adjusted, and that's learning as well. It takes a long time, so if you're learning how to do this, please ask questions if you're not quite sure about something. Maybe you're drone tuning and you're struggling with it, and you're just not quite sure how to go about it. Drone tuning and chanter tuning, frankly, are one of those things that takes time, and it is a science. My wife says all the time, bagpiping is a science, and I'm like, absolutely. So I hope that this was very helpful for you. Please put any comments down below if you have any. Like the video, and subscribe to the channel and share this with your friends if you think that they would benefit from this. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.